evening. Welcome to Investigator News. I'm your host, Ellie, and this is World News and Corruption Night. We moved Corruption Night to Monday nights and put it with our news. Uh, Makes it a little fuller and a little bit more informative. And tonight we're doing nuclear waste with the recent Missouri school, and they found leaks. I decided to take a look, and I went to the EPA. I went to the big guys. I looked at their records. I wanted to see what is actually leaking. And I have not only found all the sites, but there is basically most of our nuclear power plants are leaking. And that's their own words, not mine. I'll show you some of the documents. Uh, I did want to start off with the news. And, we heard about the schools failing. Well, I'm kind of a witness to it. My grandson, it put him very far behind. And in the areas that we're talking about, as well as my granddaughter. Uh, they say the ACT scores are down, the lowest level in 30 years. They know it's the fourth and eighth grade math scores are showing the largest drops ever recorded. And reading scores in English have plummeted as well. Remote learning lasted for longer and children suffered. What I blame is Common Core for the math. Even the parents didn't understand it. We had to go learn from the schools how to do Common Core. 2 plus 1 equals 4. And they show you how it gets to 4 in the long run. I never did really catch on and really learn it. So I was a kind of a hindrance to my own grandkids. And I did very well in math my last year or two in school. Before that, it was a struggle for me. But, I did algebra. I did algebra 2. I never got into the trigonometry. That was just way over my head. Um, I didn't get the greatest grades. I didn't get straight A's, but, I did pretty well. And I thought, I'll get this Common Core. And I think that really did hinder the kids in their math scores, because you could see it dropping, their ACT scores, you could see it dropping as soon as Common Core was put into effect. Now, when they moved reading and English to CRT, that's when we start seeing their grades falling there. Then, of course, the pandemic and parents having to learn how to use these iPads to do the schoolwork. And then that's where we started catching the teachers, not really teaching, but teaching racism and teaching that you can have a different gender. What the heck's that got to do with English or reading or history? Then we had coaches, and they tried to take history class out, and because it's part of the curriculum, they were putting in coaches or other people to try to teach history, and it wasn't getting across. Now I'm pretty good at history, so both my kids are pretty good on the history part. The Common Core, I couldn't help them, but it was up to us parents to be able to teach our kids the school, and a lot of these curricular math and science. And now that school is back, they are starting to see an increase in learning, except in English, history, and math. They got to get the Common Core out. They really, really do. So they got a failing grade. Um, and of course, they looked at Fauci, and he says, he's not responsible. I had nothing to do with it, he said. I meant, let's get down to the foreclosure and form of coveted mitigation. He blames it on the teachers. He blames it on the schools. No, he's got a big part, him, the CDC, um, the teachers that were refusing to go back into the classrooms are a big part of it. But, we can all point the fingers. He's the one that started it. And, it doesn't no good. How about we just get these kids back on track? And then, boy, we had Nancy Pelosi revealed her strategy. And the the Democrat strategy is if they ask you about inflation, change the subject. Um, you know, it was her. I want to remind everybody that all of these inflation occurred with spending, and it had to go through Congress. And what have I told you about her? She will not put a bill on the floor or anything on the floor to be voted on unless she knows she is going to win. So she's responsible for a lot of this inflation. If it went by her, she agreed to it. And then, of course, then she went out, and we know her and Feinstein and a few others go around, they threaten people. And it's been seen. They've got pictures all over the place on Google of her threatening other delegates, other congressmen, congress ladies. So, oh boy, between her and um, Camilla Harris. Now, Camilla Harris, what did she say? Oh, it's all me given to the um, MN Freedom Fund, and it was to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota during George Floyd. Oh, she said, I had nothing to do with it. That's misinformation, disinformation. Well, the thing about it is you go to Twitter and you, find it right there. If you can't see it, that's about as big as I can get it. You can see it's Camilla Harris, and she says donate. Your support will help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. That uh, that definitely included the rioters. And then when you look into her, who she was giving money to, it was this organization. But it's not misinformation or disinformation. She seems to, as long as you just say it over and over again with them, and Nancy Pelosi even said it, uh, as long as you just keep going with it, it's not true any longer. So we seen that over the weekend. China, boy, China is busy. Um, Everyone has been on their toes as Congress has laid out a future plan from the economy to geopolitics with everything discussed at the Beijing Great Hall. And for the rest of the world, it could shape policies for Taiwan, and this could have a real challenge on the ground for Jinping as his military and his decisions to have a major reshuffle in its leadership. And it's not just revamped um, move, it's a sign aimed directly at Taiwan. The PLA is looking at Taipei with blinkers on. Now, China has already enshrined its opposition to the island independence. Um, and the new military leadership is now in place. They say that the Central Military Commission is a 72-year-old General Zhang Yuxia, and he's been promoted to first rank vice chairperson. And and these are angry, these are angry Chinese men now. I mean, they're just, and they're going at it. Now, he basically, with Jinping, launched a program in 2015 to improve combat readiness. And you have to add a General Air Weong, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And they have been making second rank vice chairperson, and they reelected the party chief. So they have got their general elections, and they're going through, and Jinping is putting in who he wants to serve in as generals. And what he has done is pick some of the toughest and the meanest that they say this is close to Mao that has ever been in history. And he basically has claimed that um, basically Joe Biden has vowed to use force if China invades Taiwan. However, the Taiwan policy does not make any mention of it. Um, and I think China has never give up their attitude to take Taiwan. And we know this. And, he says he now has to elevate his awareness, he has to elevate his defense. He's got the ability in recent years to basically use Taiwan's mainland affairs council, he said. And the Taiwanese government will firmly defend the national democracy and freedom. And they went on to caution China against any military intervention. Uh, so at this point, it's very important information that has been passed, and that Taiwan and the Taiwan government want to have communication with the Chinese government, but at an equal position, which they will not have. Every time Taiwan, they say, has in the last 5 years have went to speak to anybody, ambassadors, generals. Uh, it's very stressed. The internal stress is usually him using military straight out. But I think the Taiwanese have the attitude that they can keep their country, and they can have China keep their base there as long as it's not a strike on, and to make it not independent. See, that's the whole thing. Also, you guys, if you look at um, Ukraine, because Ukraine wants its independence, and if you look at the history of Ukraine, I mean, it goes all the way back to 1800s. It's like between Poland taking Ukraine and Russia taking Ukraine, it went back and forth. It depended on who was oppressing Ukrainians at the time. So let's say Russia went over, and they decided, okay, we're going to help you out. We got the Mongols out of here. We got all these unsavory characters out of here. Now this is what we're going to do. And when they started pushing that they would help control, then they ran to Poland and said, Poland, look, Russia's invading. So of course Poland stepped in and chased Russia out. Well, then when Poland would do the same thing, it was basically to take down their own independence. They'd run over to Russia and say, look at what Poland's doing. And they have been doing this for over 100 years. Now, I'm not saying that's what Taiwan is doing, well, because Taiwan has definitely had its independence for a while. And they have been able to sustain themselves, where Ukraine depends on Russia or Poland or Europe or the United States for funding. They cannot never get their own money. Uh, every time they're in need, whether it's financial aid or humanitarian aid or military aid, they've always went to Europe, they went to Poland, and they went to Russia. Um, and then whenever they come in and help and seem to be taking over, they're like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Now, if NATO comes in and takes over, is Zelensky going to run to Russia and say, hey, look at what they're doing? It could be. So I want to get back with this Taiwan, because Taiwan never has mentioned and never gotten very vocal running to the United Nations or even talking to NATO. What they want to do is, however, keep their own policies. And it doesn't make any mention that it remains to be seen that the next 5 years will pan out with China um, invading, they don't feel, because of the United States. And not only that, but the United States and their allies. And so they're basically sitting now. Now we could have a war within in any minute, uh, uh, depending on which country you actually look at. And it's very we're very cautious. I've heard some of the greats of Levin and Bongino and Beck and a few others that have came forward and said the same thing. We could go to war any minute, and what are we to do? We sit and wait. Um, but New York, I don't know about any other states, but New York has now came out and let their own New Yorkers know where all the bomb shelters are. Do you guys know where yours are? Are you getting any notice on it? Do you know? Now, I know one of ours here in town is under the fire department, but we haven't had that worry of a bomb threat. So it's been basically a shelter for tornadoes for the people in case they need it. Um, but that's what we're if New York can give out theirs, and it's all over the place. I couldn't believe how many New York had. So how many does your state have? And does your governor know where they're at, or your attorney general, or uh, someone that's in charge there in the military? Do they know? Are they willing to let us know? I think it's getting time to where we hear of where these bomb shelters are. Um, and so I'm going to get on with a little bit of this news. There was a suspect in custody after 7-hour barricade situation at Army Fort Belvoir. Um, it was actually on base in somebody's house. The suspect is in custody after the FBI agents and military responded Sunday to a 7-hour long barricade situation at a U.S. Army Fort Belvoir. This is Virginia. And the suspect was taken to custody shortly after 3 p.m. And they say scanner report that a man with a gun was barricaded inside the home on base. And the officials basically had a fast response. But it ended up, the situation, it just was ongoing, they said, for 7 hours. And at this time, they cannot really comment anything on this until they get able to talk to the gentleman. And not only that, but take a look at what was going on with the residents and why this guy would do this. So we'll hear about it. I'm pretty sure we will. Um, Now, police are horrified after seeing what was inside a padlock in a dog kennel. 3 people face charges as a result of police investigation into circumstances of a 9-year-old child who was forced many occasion to spend a night outdoors in a dog kennel. The incident was reported to the county sheriff's department on Wednesday last week because temperatures were down to 28 degrees. And so they went ahead and turned it in. And it was told by the caller the child had been left in the dog kennel overnight, many occasions. And the resident, so they immediately responded. And there was a 9-year-old child locked in a dog kennel, which was secured with a padlock. Deputies forced entry and and basically rushed the child to EMS personnel who arrived at the scene. They say the boy had bits and pieces of clothes and cited that it did not have a name. They had a little bit of food, but not enough to sustain uh, to this child or even his warmth. After an investigation, Jonathan Starr and Sarah Starr were arrested on charges of felony abuse. Uh, they say the boy's aunt faces charges of felony child abuse, misdemeanor child abuse, and imprisonment, possession of a firearm by a felon. And the 3 went to jail. And when asked why, they just wouldn't say. They found 2 other children who lived there and were found at the school. Um, so all 3 children were at the residence, but only the one was in the dog kennel. So they're all more than likely all 3 will be taken. So boy, so the GOP give dire warnings to the IRS because they caught them red-handed destroying documents. Millions of Americans are affected. The GOP is basically warning the IRS over their handling of millions of taxpayers filing during the first few months of last year. Republicans are threatening the agencies with increased oversight, and due to their apparent unwillingness to explain the 30 million informative returns. Um, and now what I did is I didn't call the IRS, I called the agent that does my taxes. And they said, you know what? They might have to redo 30 million tax forms from last year to see if anybody had money coming. Because if you were conservative and they knew it, you may have lost or been charged more than what you should have. So it might cost a little bit, but if you think you're one of the ones that were targeted or your taxes didn't seem right, they're saying go ahead and have it looked into and have it reviewed. You might have more money coming than what they gave you. So, wow. So we are definitely, definitely they're gonna, GOP is looking into the IRS for this. And not only that, but now with the new year and we're getting closer to tax time, they want to look and see what they've done for 2022. So you guys remember the California baker who refused to make the wedding cake? Well, guess what? They got a huge victory. The court has ruled in the favor of freedom of speech in the case of the Christian bakery owner who refused to create a wedding cake for this couple. This was Kathy Miller of Tastries Bakery in Bakersfield and was approached back in 2017 to bake a cake for Eileen Del Rio and her fiance. And they referred to the business um, as a competing bakery. And so they refused to make the cake. Oh, I'm sorry. So um, they ended up suing the bakery. And on Friday, the Superior Court of California, Kern County, ruled against the legal suit. And Miller's lawyer, Paula Jonah, Thomas More Society, called the ruling a bit of irony, considering the law intended to protect individuals from religious discrimination. And it was used to discriminate against Kathy for her religious beliefs. At one point, the lawyers for the government went so far as to question the sincerity of the baker's owner's faith, and which makes that an irony, and even more delicious for the constitutional confectionist. So they didn't get their way. She is almost lost her business over this. It happened here too. And Huckabee was trying to help the people out here, but they lost their case. Um, so we're going to start seeing people fighting back. Um, so um, this one here um, happened here in Arkansas. Now, it has been uh, this is an odd case. Resisting arrest is really a bad idea, but um, now what happened with this cop and this young gentleman is just mind blowing. Now, according to the dash cam, just after 1 a.m., police spotted a man on a black sports bike without a license plate. So the cruiser activated its lights, and this guy took off. And the breakaway biker shot through residential areas, speeding 90 to 100 miles per hour. And once on the freeway, his hightailing topped at 120. And after 10 minutes on the lam, lawbreaker cut across Kroger parking lot and into the neighborhood and basically grounded his bike. He basically rocketed near a tree and attempting to ditch the cops, but they caught up with him, and the man boldly blazed through town. They say, but the thing about it was um, they a member of the Arkansas State Police unholstered his taser and fired on the fleeing felon. And when the barbs reached the suspect and delivered the jolt like they should have, he blew up. He caught on fire. His torso burst into furious fireball that consumed the rest of him. The trooper shouted, "Oh my God, he's on fire!" Basically they pushed him to the ground and face planted him and rolled him and basically put him out. They were like flipping him around, they say, and at some point he decided it'd be friendlier with the cops and less on fire. He was saying, "Help me, help me," and then he complained he couldn't breathe. Um, so after the cop basically put him out, um, they basically um, found out he had a type of jerry can full of gasoline in his backpack, and they were thinking it probably leaked onto him. So when they hit him with this jolt, um, it basically he went ablaze. So wow, oh man, he caught on fire. So and that was here in Arkansas. So hopefully the gentleman's okay. It didn't say they didn't say if they took him to the hospital. It just basically ended the article right there. Now I found it through Red State, folks, and I had to go find it on in our local paper to see if it actually was real. And lo and behold, it was. This actually happened here in Little Rock. So yep, they tased him and he caught on fire. And then what did the cop say at the end? He says, now he's going to have to make sure his before he tases these guys, they don't smell like gas. Because he said this really freaked him out too. Not only the gentleman that caught on fire was in shock, but the police department too. Boy, what tasing people. Um, now, California wildfires canceled out nearly 2 decades of emissions. They say that just the few summers and the few fires that California had basically made it worse than the emissions from the cars that have been going, that we're losing because of the Green New Deal. They say that, and the whole thing about this article was, where's the fire? Now, I know living in California that the Santa Ana winds spark um, a fire every single year, August, September, October. I mean, into November. It's just fire after fire that they deal with. Well, it's dry and and the drought that there hasn't been hardly any fires this year. And even the fire department is saying, where's the fire this year? And yet they're starting to wonder if there's might have to investigate all the fires that throughout California due to the fact there's no fires now, and it's worse now than it was then. EU to give Ukraine 1.5 billion euros per month. That's what we're giving them too. I just don't like it. Um, and Russia is even warning of a dirty bomb. They say it could go to some of the dams, some of the nuclear plants. Um, um, and they're more and more, they're getting these allies, NATO allies, to start giving them 1 million a month. What do they need with $1 million a month? I'm so lost on this. And I go and I look, and yeah, it wouldn't, if they were just buying military equipment, it'd be one thing. Well, they say humanitarian aid. Well, the humanitarian aid isn't getting to the people. So who's it getting to? Now, if it goes to the soldiers, I'm okay with that, because even they need a little help. But it's not looking like that. And they're getting all the military equipment, bombs, bullets, guns, everything that they want separate. So why do they need? So if we're giving them a million, UK's giving them a million, and now Europe's giving them a million. That is a 3, 4, 5 million, almost 5 million a month that goes to Ukraine. For it almost sounds like that. Hey, Russia, we need you to come help us, and because Poland's picking on us, and then they It's all about them getting money to their country. When are they going to come up with their own money? When are they going to finally come up with their own millions and billions to protect themselves and not depend on Poland, Russia, or Europe, or NATO, or us, or the UK to pay and bail them out every time they've gotten in trouble for the last, guess what? 4,000 years they've been doing this. Ukraine has basically been trying to become a country and independent, but they keep getting taken over. And of course, the handout. Maybe it's time that someone does take care of them, and Russia did. And Chernobyl is moving over to the corruption files. Chernobyl is in Ukraine, folks. And who stepped in to help? Who stepped in immediately and took care of it and went through and did everything they could and got the people evacuate? None other than Gorbachev. Russia stepped in and helped Ukraine. And well, not only is that, but we had 3 Mile Island, we had Fukushima, and we had so many meltdowns. And so, is nuclear power really safe? Now we have in San Diego, folks, they basically are starting to close down. And what it is when the nuclear, they have a waste, and the waste has to go somewhere, and it's very radioactive. And they're sitting on millions of barrels and not know where to put it. San Diego is. And so is many of these nuclear plants. If you've got one next to you, where are they burying it? For the longest time, Britain and the UK, what they thought was a great idea, it was to put the barrels in the ocean. And after so many years, they started seeing crackage in these barrels. And then they started seeing fish having issues. We have had a Fukushima, and everybody says, oh, no, it didn't go nowhere in the water. Yes, it did. Their own data shows it went almost all the way to Alaska and Canada. And then we have a drilling into volcanoes. We have active volcanoes. This is what's warming up the oceans. Fukushima warmed up the Pacific. And what do we get out of it? A closed down snow crab season. And this is what happened over in Europe and the UK back when they were putting these barrels in. Now, I told you I would show you some of these. Let's see. I want to get the right ones for you guys. Okay. This is a list of leaks and spills at operating U.S. commercial nuclear power plants since October of 2021. And that so they have said a radioactive leak or spill of tritium, tritium, okay. And they say that this is basically what has been leaking out of a lot of these power plants. Now, the list of historic leaks and spills operating in the United States, here's the list, folks. Here's the list. So we've got, well, it keeps going. It keeps going. And so there's 2 pages. And you're wondering where these at. I was looking for, it gives cities or it gives the name of them, but it's not giving the states. Beaver Valley, Braidwood, Browns Ferry. Here's Fitzpatrick, Grand Gulf. And these are all leaks that have not been filled. Now, here's one from 1998. And guess what? The current maximum groundwater sample that's got tritium in it is 794. So these are almost every one of them are leaking. So the other thing I wanted to show you is um, um, let me get rid of that for a second. Here we go. So nuclear waste storage sites in America. Now I'm so hoping you guys can see this. Uh, all those little dots. Those are nuclear waste storage sites in the United States. Look at how many there are along the East Coast. Um, we got one, oh boy, and these are small and I can't increase it. Um, we got at least, oh boy, uh, oh boy, maybe I should put my glasses on. I could see it better. There's one in St. Lucas, Turkey Point, um, Waterford, River Bend, Great Gulf, South Texas, Comrade of Pruitt, I believe, Arkansas, a nuclear one. Yeah, it's just up the road from me in Russellville. Um, U.S. breaking feet on the ground. My brother Larry just came in and let us know this. Um, I don't know. Now, what I heard was that they have went over there with planes, and they will be joining NATO Air Force. That's what I've heard today, brother. But Larry, I don't know about boots on the ground just yet. So these are every single one of the waste sites, and they're finding leakages in all of these. There is supposedly 48 nuclear plants here in the United States that we are looking at leaks. Um, and this should be very concerning to every single one of us. Um, and let's see, I thought I had one more. Did I get rid of it? Oh, this ain't good. Um, uh, while I'm looking, um, and the the thing about I'll just go back to the map. Um, and if you guys want to know where I got this from, this is Congressional Research Services, nuclear waste storage sites in the United States. And they say the Nuclear Waste Policy Act, that one of the biggest places that we are now using is Yucca Mountain. And Yucca Mountain has some facilities, and everybody says, oh, there's nothing there. There's no facilities in Yucca. That's just a figment of the tinfoil hats. Well, no, because there's pictures, and a lot more people are now coming out with this. Let me see if I can find it. Haha. Okay, folks, I did get it. Okay. Um. No, wait a minute. Okay. So, let me get you to what Yucca Mountain looks like. It's very beautiful, but they have found a power station, and the power station, they say, has been leaking. The other thing is this is where they store the radioactive material. Now, this is where San Diego is considering sending all the waste in barrels to them. Now, there has been over history where they have taken the barrels and they have buried them deep, deep. Los Alamos, I believe this is what we were talking about earlier in the last show, that they take them deep in and they have found a way to enclose them in a type of cement lead container. And this is working. They said over the last 10 years, no leaks, no cracks, nothing in this, but it's very costly. So why would we? I'm trying to see if I can find the pictures that I had earlier for. Um, no, that's not it. I thought I had them all lined up here. Oh boy, I should have labeled them. Uh, oh well. So let me remove that. So they have found a way. Um, Bad news. Yeah. No Williams in here. So they have found a way to do it and they have put them in there. The problem is now they have got to go back into these places where they have buried these and re-enclose them in these new confinements. And as they uncover them, these sites, and this is why the EPA is now putting out, and it's the um, IAEA, I believe is what it's called. They're now looking at um, these are have been buried in city limits, sometimes like we've seen with the school. So now they know that these things are leaking. So they have eventually have to go back to all of the sites where they have stored the waste. Um, and so they're even claiming that the Great Britain and the UK must go down and get those containers. Well, what they claimed was they don't know where they put them. So it's a hunt. Uh, it's a hunt for those barrels over there. Now, have we put them in our waters? Now, according to um, our government, no. Now, according to certain people that are using dump sites, yes, they have, and quite a bit into the Pacific Ocean. Is there proof? There are pictures. But what they do is they go through and they find these people, they fire them, and some of them do go to prison, some of them don't. And then, of course, they have the cleanup. Now, how safe is nuclear power compared to, let's say, propane? Now, when they put the study out a long time ago, it was the nuclear power plants that put the study out, and they said that it's very hazardous. That if one of these leaks, like, and this was back with 3 Mile Island, that this could possibly happen, and it did. And they said, okay, now we just took out quite a few towns, and this isn't good. That's why they started using more natural gas and with the propane. And they said if this blows up, it wouldn't affect, but it would eventually dissipate, and it wouldn't take a whole city or town or quite a few cities unlivable for forever with radioactive. And this was the nuclear power people, and they were saying maybe use this as a backup, not as a main. And they were pushing more propane and natural gas than they were and then use nuclear power as the backup. And they even mentioned at the time wind generators. They didn't go for the solar panels. They said those were the break too easy, and the batteries were could blow up. So even they knew this a long time ago. And the EPA did look at this and they did agree that nuclear power wasn't the way to go. Now, what is our government and or the World Economic Forum want right now? They're saying, yeah, start up the nuclear plants. Why can't we just have natural gas if their studies and their data shows that it would be less hazard to use the natural gas than they would the nuclear power? Um, and not only that, but every single one of those nuclear power plants in Ukraine are leaking. The one in Germany is leaking. The one they have over in Europe, the few over there, are leaking. The UK has admitted theirs are leaking. What pays for this? Infrastructure, folks. If we used our infrastructure for the power plants, the dams, the bridges, we wouldn't have the issues we have today. But the infrastructure money all went to the Green New Deal. And you hear Bernie Sanders, yeah, he's a going today. And why? Because he wants more money. He thinks, hey, let's pass another Green New Deal. Him and his buddies make all the Green Deal money before they all get voted out. And they need to be voted out. These are horrible people that is taking our country and just have just crumbled it and corrupted it with Green New Deal. Now, I agree. I want the electric cars. I want the flying cars, but not forced on us in less than 2 years and taking away everything that there is that we have. Uh, that's World Economic Forum, though, pushing the one world order. So if we are looking at the nuclear plants in the United States, now think of 48 power plants that are leaking. They're not giving those names. They given the ones with have issues and have had the tritium leaks, but they're not saying the ones with the bigger leaks. And why? Because they're trying to fix them as quick as possible. So if you live next to a power plant, think on this. Is yours leaking? Go look at the EPA for your state. Look at what's going on. Look at what's in your water for your city. That's the biggest one that they say. Uh, They give themselves away. They say, if you're finding this in your water, then you have a problem with the local um, nuclear power plant. Now, get this, the one we have is right next to the river and the lake up there. And that's always kind of worried me is why would they put a power plant next to a lake? So lo and behold, I went and started looking up a lot of these power plants. And most of them are right next to uh, a river, a lake, a stream. Look at the one that was in Missouri by the schoolyard. It was leaking into the local stream and river, and that's where they're finding the probably the tritium. What am I saying that name? Is it tritium or tritium? Um, I think for sure I'm getting this right. And there's stratum, and they're finding aluminum, and it almost sounds like what has been in the air. But now we're finding that a lot of these chemicals. Um, um, you get the leaks because the neutron bombardment of the pipes in the power plants. That's very very true. Tritium, yeah, tritium. It's Tritium, I believe is how it's spelled. But yes, and we're not keeping them. And talking to the guys here, I did a few years ago because I was kind of concerned. And they said if they could get the funding, it would be so much easier to keep these plants running smoothly. But when the government and your state government wants to cut those funding, then things start going wrong. Pipes start, like William mentioned, the pipes in the power plants. The pipes start getting old. Uh, Parts start wearing out. The parts start getting old. They start failing. And then what is a state to do when you've got a leaky power plant and you're begging for your infrastructure money and it's not coming. It's going to little ugly girl that's cursing at us in foreign languages. It's not helping us. This infrastructure, get this, what does the Kennedy Art Center have to do with fixing our power plants or finding where San Diego can put their waste? The waste is the problem, folks, because the nuclear power creates that waste. The waste goes in the barrels. Then what? Then where do you put it to where it will not affect anybody forever? Forever. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. I would, we've seen all those spots. I showed you um, all the different cities, and they're saying that every single one of these are a let's get the right one. Um, every single one of these is looking for where to put their waste. William, you got one? No, it's well. Actually, I think you got two in your state. Oregon don't have any. Utah's got one. California's got quite a few. Um, and the one that's a big one is down in San Diego. This is the one they talk about. Not only that, but the Yucca mountain, and they are got this great big opening to where they can put them into this deep cave. And wish I could find those pictures. It drives me nuts when I think I've got downloaded pictures and I don't have them. Um, let's see if I got, no, oh no. Okay, here we go. I might have them. Let's see. There we go. Here is one of the sites. I did find them. Oh, no, no, I did have something to show there. Oh, okay, here's one of the pipes that I was telling you about. Oh, it's not gonna, it's being mean. All right. Okay. I just can't go too far. I just can't blow them up. So hopefully you guys can see that. So that's the installation there. They must not want me to show you guys these pictures. I've been having computer issues since I think I don't know if that's a truck or if I'm getting um, lightning. Um, the power plant fuel um, should be LNG, then coal, and after that, nuclear. Yeah. Well, they're saying they're even going against coal, William. That's the thing that got me was the big thing about the coal is they're saying I'm talking the green guys, the Green New Deal guys, is that coal is more polluting than nuclear. And I'm going, whoa, wait a minute now. Because if a coal plant blew up, which we've seen happen, it's not going to take out the city forever and ever and ever and ever that long lasting. Well, look at that. Is it a coal? Is it the coal plant that's underground that's in that one town that it's burning underground and it keeps burning, burning, burning? Um, and they can't, Centella, is that the name of the town? And it's got forever burning coal underneath it. And now the town is not livable. Um, and so, we have made mistakes in the past and we've made some wrong choices. but that this administration right now has made the worst. Let's fix the nuclears. And you have to really, you got to call your governors, you got to call your EPA's folks. Check your water. Your local water has to give you, or they, their water, the water department, go to their site. They have to have a report of what's in that water. Look for that. Look for these tritium. Look for radioactive materials. Look for, because it would be in the water, is what the EPA is saying. And this is a report by the EPA that's trying to warn the American people. And you would not think that the EPA would give a crap about us, but they have to give us the data. They have to give us the reports. And this is something you can't fake these reports, folks. And this is very, very important as we are looking at, um, look at what just got blown up over there. The pipeline with the gas, but look at the nuclear plant that everybody is protecting. And it's leaking. And then they say some of the other ones are leaking in Ukraine. It's time uh, when if in a few weeks the GOP does take over, this is something, the infrastructure. When we put money into our infrastructure, it needs to go in the right directions. Um, Look at some of the dams and bridges that are just crumbling. And we drive across quite a few of them all the time. Uh, Hoover Dam is in bad need of repair. What happens when it fills up with too much water? Are we going to have problems? Are we going to see some cracks? Or do we already see cracks they're not letting us see? Um, this infrastructure money should be put for infrastructure issues, and it should definitely go towards our nuclear power plants here in the United States. Let's not spend $1 million and send it to Zelensky for us to figure out what he's spending the money on. It's time that, and this is what Trump was about, was keeping our money into fixing up our own infrastructures and using our own resources for Americans to be able to use, and we won't have to go outside the country. And it's very important that we do this. And it's very important that you look for candidates that support this. We need to build up our country now. It has been neglected for 50, 60, 70 years. And as we looked at tonight, the waste that's buried in barrels under our feet, where? Is it going to be like the UK and Britain and they say, we don't know? Or do we really know? Is it Los Alamos? Is it at Yucca Mountain? Is it out in the middle of underneath where we were bombing? Are we throwing it in the ocean where we used to do the big um, atomic weapons? Is it, William? I know we dropped so many bombs in that one area. Now they capped it off. Guess what? It's cracking and leaking. Why? Because they don't have the infrastructure to fix it. And, and uh, we have got to take a look before Fukushima happens here in the United States. And is that what happened to Fukushima? The earthquake, yes, but look how many earthquakes we have in California and how many. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 major power plants. And these are also waste storage sites in the United States. What happens when the earthquake hits it? How many cities will be destroyed? So it's very important. So with that, folks, that is it for tonight. And we have William coming on Wednesday, and tomorrow is Tuesday. It's usually the busy day. I'll go check out with what my brother had to say about boots on the ground. Now, I do know it was reported that Russia has, not Russia, I'm sorry, the United States has sent planes and pilots over to join up with NATO forces. This I do know. I don't know about boots on the ground yet. Um, but if so, stay tuned tomorrow and we'll have a report on it. If needed, I might bring, Larry might know more or William, and we might have to have them in and give a special report. They find out a little bit more info than I do. All right, so subscribe and definitely share. Hit that like button, hit the bell. We've been getting quite a few have joined us this week. I like definitely combining some of these bigger shows with the news. Um, and I think it's going very well, even the show with William last week. I think everybody likes that little bit of news to go with these um, big stories and issues that we get into, especially what's going on with Russia and China. Uh, and everybody wants to hear what's going on and not just the big issues. And so that's what we're going to do. We'll get you the news, we'll get you some of the bigger issues and discussions. Like tonight with corruption files. We need to know before we start pumping the nuclear power plants and powering them back up again. And then where are we going to put the waste? So I thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support. Come on back. We'll be here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So weather and lifestyle news. And then right after that, we have world news. And we will have a military, the World War III report on Wednesday. So with that, we will see you guys soon. Uh, have a wonderful evening. Stay safe if you are in the storm areas like I am. My trees are spinning in circles right now. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. So, all right, folks, see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day or evening, and God bless. Bye bye.